With JJK Volume 2 releasing in a little over a week, I wanted to make sure you have an idea of where to start with the new support so you know what to look out for and maybe even what to pick up from Volume 1 if you don't have the cards already. Now, disclaimer before we begin, I need to mention that these lists I'm about to show you are all from the Japan meta and could probably be improved upon a little bit and changed from our meta. They're two completely different metas, and so just use these lists as a starting point and don't be afraid to branch out with your own tech choices and ideas. Now, let's go ahead and quickly talk about 3 things you may not have known about this set. First up, Japan received the JJK folder cards months before the Volume 2 release. We did not, so it makes sense that these cards are included in the set for us for Volume 2. I'll show them on screen now. Each of these cards was guaranteed in the folder released in Japan, and because we won't be getting the folder with each card included, Bandai included a non-alt art version of each of these to allow players to get them easier. And like Japan, we will be receiving a reprint for this JJK Volume 1 Raid Yuji. This card will be included in Volume 2 as an alt art only. Next up, there are no signatures in the set for the 2 stars or the 3 stars. However, just like the first JJK set, this one will include a 3-star that will have a serialized version. Now, we're going to start off the video with the new red color. I'm excited to see what red can do for the meta as it brings some awesome new cards and a few different strategies to try out. The first deck I wanted to bring to you guys was the Jujutsu Sorcerer Affinity deck, or Yuji, Nobara, Gojo, Mei, whatever you want to call it. We've had plenty of affinity-based decks, and this one is no different. The way to turn on most of the abilities relies on how many Jujutsu Sorcerer affinity cards you have on your field. So let's quickly go over the cards. First up, we're playing the 0-drop Yuji, Nobara, and Megumi. Yuji has the get trigger, Nobara is an active trigger, and Megumi is there for his draw ability and draw trigger. Next is the 1-drop Nobara that has the ability to boost your other character's BP. The 2-drop Yuji that has step and nullify impact along with being a 3k. And then we have the 2-drop Toge for double energy generation. There's also the 3-drop color Yuji that generates 2 energy and can gain some abilities on the front line. For the top end of the deck, it plays Gojo with impact and an ability that can search your other Jujutsu Sorcerer affinity cards. The Raid Nobara that can draw a card, reduce BP of an opponent's card, and a separate ability to have one of your cards gain 500 BP. Then there's the Raid Yuji that has a when attacking ability to either gain impact or reduce its own BP, which is why you can see the minus symbol to switch to an active again. This list also plays the 5-drop Mei with damage 2, and it's a 5k on your turn. There's also Domain Expansion, which is the final of the deck, and Black Flash, the special for the deck, which is 2 action cost unless you have Yuji on your field. It has a nice ability that pairs incredibly well with the Raid Yuji to also give a card with Jujutsu Sorcerer Affinity an additional 2000 BP. That's the list for this deck. However, I think it can be expanded upon. Personally, I'm not a fan of 16 non-trigger cards, and if you count the finals, that's 20, almost half the deck. Unfortunately, with how little red cards there are, there's not too many changes that can be made. But if I were to try and make any change to add some triggers to the deck, I'd probably swap out the Mei for the 4-drop Nanami. It's another 4k and has an active trigger. It also works to search for the Yuji. Maybe is a great card, but I think this is just a quick suggestion if you don't like the fact that she has no trigger. Next up, this deck is focused on Choso and Yuji, or what I'd call Blood Brothers. This list has Yuji and Megumi for zeros, and also the 0-drop Choso. It includes the 1-drop Choso that places 2 cards from the deck into the sideline and can add an Eso or Kechizu from the sideline to the hand. Speaking of, the deck plays the 2-drop Kechizu with the when attacking ability to draw and gain BP. The energy generating Toge and the color Yuji are in the deck as well. The Eso, who has the same ability as the Kechizu. For the first raid, the deck plays the 4-drop Choso, who on play draws a card and can play either Eso or Kechizu from hand. He also has an activate main ability to give all Eso and Kechizu a 500 BP boost if they're on the same line. This list also plays the Raid Yuji and Mei Mei. This event increases the BP of Choso, Eso, Kechizu, and Yuji. It also has the ability if 2 characters are chosen and 1 is Choso, then he gains impact. And if 3 characters are chosen and Choso is included, you also get to draw a card. The event also has an active trigger, so I think that's a great addition to the deck. The last 2 cards are the Domain Expansion and Black Flash Special. This deck is definitely interesting, allowing for a lot of BP manipulation, which can come as an unexpected surprise to your opponent depending on how you sequence your turn. The final red list is the Choso and Curse Spirit list. This deck specializes in placing cards into your sideline to gain abilities on the cards. The list plays the 0-drop Geto that can look at the top 2 cards and place a Curse Spirit or Curse Womb affinity card in your sideline. The deck also plays 0-drop Choso and the 0-drop Dagon, who can switch himself to active under certain circumstances. The deck plays the 1-drop Choso, 2-drop Kechizu, and 3-drop Eso. It also includes the 3-drop Hanami that if on the front line and you have 5 energy generation, gains BP on your turn or your opponent's. The Raid Choso is in this list as well, but for the other top end cards, it plays 3 Jogo, 2 color trigger Mahito, who both gain abilities if you have 5 or more energy generation, and probably the coolest card in the entire set, we have the 5-drop Suguru Geto. He can place up to 2 red Curse Spirit affinity cards without raid and different names from your sideline to the removal area and gain all of the activate main abilities on the cards that were placed into the removal area by this ability. This card also has the get trigger, so you'll have access to this card a lot more. This deck also plays the double energy generating subway platform site. Every turn you can use the activate main ability by switching it to resting to place the top card of your deck into your sideline. And if you need a specific card back, you can instead use the second activate main ability to rest and sideline the site and place 1 Suguru Geto or Curse Spirit or Curse Womb affinity card from your sideline onto the top of your deck. This list also plays 3 Domain Expansion, and for the last card, it plays the Action 2 Prison Realm event with the special trigger. This card does have reduced AP cost while you have a Curse Spirit, Curse Womb, or Suguru Geto on your front line, which is every character in the deck. So unless you don't have anything on the front line, this special should always have the reduced cost ability active. The cool part about this special is instead of sidelining a card when activated, it actually removes the character instead. And if the card removed has 5k BP, then you also get to draw a card. This ability is in reference to the red Gojos in the set, as they are all 5k BP. I feel like being able to use the abilities of the Jogo and Mahito on themselves, and when your opponent removes them or you place them from the deck into the sideline, then you can follow it up with the 5-drop Geto, is pretty strong. I do think it's important with this specific list to test out the number of double energy generating cards. There's only 7 double energy in the deck, and while I would say most of the time you're going to see those cards, there are those times you won't, and especially at a larger tournament, you may want to think about additional cards that generate double energy. Unfortunately, the Hanami doesn't have a trigger, and the subway platform is a draw trigger and not a get trigger, so if they're in life, they're wasted. You don't want this to be the reason you lose because you can't play the Mahito, the Geto, the Prison Realm. And another thing to think about is the site's ability. If you haven't seen another double energy generator, it's probably not smart to use the second ability, as it sidelines the card and leaves you without enough energy to play those cards. I think the deck has quite a lot of potential though, but I can definitely see that it may require a lot of playtesting to become proficient on when to use abilities and how to use the cards properly. Now for some updates to the decks in Volume 1. Let's go ahead and hop into some blue deck lists, starting with what was probably the most popular deck of the first JJK set, which is Nanami and Sukuna. As you can see, the deck removes cards like the set 1 raid Nanami and the action 2 Nanami, and adds the new 1-drop Nanami from the new movie, who has a wind sideline ability to help thin the deck and boost the BP of a card on your field. The deck also is utilizing the 2 new color trigger cards for blue, Nanami and Yuji. The Nanami gains 1000 BP and nullify impact on the opponent's turn when 15 or less cards are in the deck, and on play, places a card from the top of the deck into the sideline. The other new addition is the new Raid Nanami. This card has Wind Plate ability to choose a character on the front line and give it the ability to not be able to attack until the start of your next turn. This is super powerful, especially against cards with impact late game. He also has the Win Attacking ability to place a card from the top of your deck to your sideline, and if you have 15 cards or less in your deck, you can draw a card and reduce the BP of all characters with 1500 or more by 1k for the turn. With the addition of all these new Nanamis, it's going to be that much easier to get the abilities live for when you have 15 or less cards in the deck. The deck seems pretty strong, however, I feel like you may be able to squeeze in 1 or 2 of the Volume 1 raid Nanamis. The Wind Sideline ability of that Nanami is still pretty strong, as well as the abilities he gains when there's less than 15 cards in the deck. I'm excited to see this deck in action, as the new Nanami raid seems like a really good card. Next, I wanted to go ahead and look at what I think could overtake the last deck in popularity. I believe the reason is that it's an incredibly streamlined deck with not too many complicated plays, and it still gets the job done. Get the fingers into the sideline as quick as possible, get out your Yujis and Sukuna, and play a shrine for Sukuna to end the game quicker. The main difference of this deck is the addition of the color Yuji. We no longer have to play the action 2 color Yuji, but instead we can use the new movie Yuji. There's also the addition of the 1-drop Akari that gives the deck a good curve and has a draw trigger. The deck no longer has to play the 1-drop Nobara that generates 2 energy and has no trigger. And because this list is more Yuji and Sukuna based, it does include the 5-cost Sukuna and only a singular shrine. In my opinion, 1 is probably enough, as the shrine has a get trigger, and since the 5-drop Sukuna searches for it or a finger, you're that much more likely to see it. I think it's probably fine to bump up the 5-drop Sukuna if you want to take out a Maki or even a final trigger if you're feeling risky. The thing is, the deck is very similar to the Volume 1 version, except now it's just easier to play since the 2-action Yuji isn't in the deck. This next list focuses on getting a lot of energy to be able to get out the new Volume 2 Sukuna. It also utilizes the new 5-drop Yuji as well. They're both great cards, but have a high required energy cost, so you really do need to build around both of them to be able to play them. The 5-drop Yuji can reduce the required energy of a Sukuna in hand, and on play, draws and sidelines a card from hand. The raid Sukuna has impact when raided, and has 3 abilities that can be used based on how many Sukuna's finger are in your sideline. The first ability can draw you a card and then have your opponent place a card from their hand into the sideline. The second ability can have all characters with 2500 or more BP lose 2k for the rest of the turn. And the last ability, you can choose a character on your opponent's front line with 3500 or less BP and sideline it. All really good abilities. And as an additional note, when activating multiple of these abilities, you use them in order from top to bottom. So I hope that helps your understanding of the card. Take notice that this list doesn't play the starter deck Sukuna. That's because it plays the 2-drop Yuji. And if you're new to JJK in Union Arena, these 2 cards are currently restricted to only using one or the other in a deck. Japan no longer has this restriction anymore, but until this restriction gets lifted for the English version of Union Arena, we do have to play with these rules in mind. If you want to stay up to date and read more on the current restrictions, I'll link to the official page in the description below. But back to the list, the 2-drop Yuji doesn't have a trigger, but he does help search the top 5 for your deck for a Sukuna's finger. So the 2-drop Yuji and the 5-drop Sukuna will help you search for those fingers, so you can take advantage of all 3 of those effects for the 7-drop Sukuna as fast as possible. One thing about this deck, I'm excited to see how everyone builds it. I think a lot of people will be wanting to experiment with this new 7-drop Sukuna, and I hope to see some cool lists pop up. On to Purple Todo. The Volume 1 version was fun, but the deck really wasn't good because the deck had so many non-trigger cards and relied mainly on the 2-action Miwa to get the win. Now you swap out every non-trigger card with the exception of the 2-drop Ultimate Mechamaru that generates 2 energy when active. With so many cards being removed, you are adding in a lot of new cards. So let's start by talking about Kokichi Muda. The 0-drop and 3-drop, both are always treated as Ultimate Mechamaru. The 3-drop is the new color trigger of the deck and has a when played ability that activates when you have 5 or more Kyoto Jujutsu High Affinity or a singular Kasumi Miwa. If that's on the field as well, you can choose a character on your opponent's front line and have it lose 1k BP for the turn. The 3-drop Kasumi Miwa is played for its double energy generation and on playability to draw a card and sideline one from hand. The new movie Todo is played as another double energy generator. This card is really good in my opinion. Not only does it have double energy generation and an active trigger, but it can also swap with other cards. Playing this on the front line and swapping something else up to the front early on can get you that extra attack to put you way ahead. Then the last new card of the deck is the 6-cost Raid Ultimate Mechamaru. This card also gains impact with 5 or more Kyoto High or a Miwa on the field. It also has a when played ability to choose one of 2 effects, either to sideline a 3500 or less BP card on your opponent's front line, or to choose a sight on your opponent's field and sideline it. The latter effect may not be used as much, but it's still nice to be able to get rid of a sight if a problem card ever shows up, especially against the red Geto deck we looked at earlier. The last update to the deck is a card that was played mainly based on player preference from the Volume 1 set is actually super impactful now. The Goodwill event card adds up to 1 Kyoto High Affinity card from the sideline and allows you to play the card resting or raid with it. It's really good now as there's no 2-action card in this list, as well as an additional raid target to take advantage of. This deck definitely gets a lot more powerful with the Volume 2 support. I'm sure you may run into it more now that this set's going to drop soon. The next deck I know in my area was super popular for players, so I'm sure they're all excited to receive the new support. The new cards are the 0-drop Dagon with the win sideline ability to place the top 2 cards of the deck into the sideline and has an active trigger. The 1-drop Jogo that gains BP when a character is sidelined that turn. The new 2-drop Mahito allows for additional energy generation when a character has been sidelined that turn, as well as has the ability to sideline a card other than Mahito to choose a Cursed Spirit or a Transfigured Human affinity card and have it gain 1k BP so the energy generation effect can always be live. The final new card in the deck is the 5-drop Raid Mahito. This card has a when played ability to sideline 2 characters on your field that are not Mahito and have different names. Then you can draw 2 cards and reduce a character on your opponent's front line by 4000 BP for the turn. Very strong ability, but it does take some setup as getting rid of 2 cards specifically may not always be ideal, and the fact that he's also 5 required energy. I think that's why this list only plays 2 of this card. Still a great card, and I'm honestly very excited to see what the players in my area end up doing with the deck. Last but not least is Yellow. I have 2 decks for Yellow, starting with the Megumi and his Shikigami. The new additions to the deck are the 0-drop Rabbit Stampede, which has the ability to switch something to active if returned to the hand. The 2-drop Megumi that on play searches for a Chimera Shadow Garden or Shikigami Affinity character card. The 3-drop Max Elephant is also new. It pairs with the Rabbit Stampede as on play, it needs to return another Shikigami card to the hand or else it will return itself. It also generates energy on the front line, which is always a nice addition. The final new addition to the deck is the Action 2 Megumi. He has the ability for all Megumis on your field to gain 1k BP when the Activate main ability of Chimera Shadow Garden is activated. He also has a when played ability to choose a character with BP equal to or less than 1000 multiplied by the number of Shikigami Affinity or Chimera Shadow Garden cards on your field and sideline it. So if you have 3 Shikigami and a Chimera Shadow Garden, that's a 4K character you can sideline. This ability is most likely going to always be active, and you're going to be sidelining big stuff all the time very easily. I hope this deck's new support will be enough, as I know a lot of players picked this one up when the first set came out, as they enjoyed the aggro style of the deck. I know when this deck popped off, it was hard to catch up, so hopefully with the new support, it will be a bit easier to get to that point. The last list I have for you all today is Yellow Gojo. This list is taking advantage of all the new movie support. The deck revolves around having Gojo and Geto on the front line together. Starting off with the 0-drop Shoko, she helps filter the deck through her when played ability and the trigger. However, the other 0-drop this list plays is the Misato, and this card's ability does in fact activate to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, but will never resolve as the cards needed are not played. This means it's just played for the active trigger, and that's it. I'm not too sure on this, as if I was playing this deck, I do really like the trigger, but looking at the top 5 and then bottom decking cards that are really good can be really annoying. If I was playtesting with the Gojo list, I might consider playing the Sumiki Fushiguro that has a draw trigger. That way I wouldn't be forced to bottom deck the top 5 on play of the Misato. Anyways, next up we have the movie Shoko that searches for a Gojo or Geto on play. The next new card is the 3-drop double energy Geto. During your turn, if this card is on the front line and Gojo is on the same line, he gains 1k BP. He also has a when played ability to pay 1 AP and play a yellow card and Curse Spirit Affinity from your sideline. In this deck, however, that specific ability won't work. There's no Curse Spirit Affinity cards in this deck specifically, so you can just ignore that ability. The 4-drop movie Gojo is also played in the deck. While he's on the front line on your turn and Geto is on the same line, he gains damage too. He also has the ability when sideline to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and reveal a Gojo, Shoko, or Geto and add it to your hand. He's also got an active trigger, which is one of the better ones. The 5-drop movie Geto is another new card played and gives himself and all Gojos on the front line an additional 500 BP. He also helps with energy generation on the front line if you activate the ability and place a card from your hand into the sideline. The final new card is the 5-drop Gojo. During your turn, while on the front line with a Geto, he gains 1k BP and impact. He's also got an ability where, when played, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and reveal a Curse Technique blue, red, or hollow purple card. This deck doesn't play blue or red, but it does play hollow purple, as that is the special. I think this deck is quite interesting, and I'm looking forward to playing it. I will have to keep my eyes out for some yellow stuff from Volume 1, though, as I don't think I have enough of the SR Gojos. And that's about it for the list I have for you today. Let me know what deck or decks you're going to try out, and if you've got a list that differs from these. Again, these are meant to be a starting point for you so you can see what was played in the Japan meta. If you want me to put together a tier list of all these decks, either by themselves or within the current meta in a future video, let me know down in the comments. I think a discussion on the current decks with the JJK Volume 2 included is definitely worth talking about. I will need to do some testing with these first so I can get you guys accurate data and not just base it on bias or what I've heard. I also wanted to say thank you to everyone who's filled out the survey. As of recording this video, I have 81 responses. I want to get to 100 responses before I make the video based on the community's feedback, but if I don't get there before the weekend's end, I'll go ahead and just make the video next week. If you haven't responded already to the survey, I will put the link in the description below. It takes 5 minutes. It's really quick. Go ahead, check it out below. And I hope everyone now has an idea of what deck they want to at least look into for the release of JJK Volume 2. The set releases on June 27th. However, the release events begin this Friday, June 20th. So check out the Bandai TCG Plus app to find a release event near you, and good luck on your pulls. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.